Let's have a look at the Facebook page of Jody Brandt. So, Jody Brandt, for those of you who don't know, is Zay Frank's wife. Zay Frank, I've been accusing him on this channel and on my WordPress blog, along with his father, Joachim Frank, and his wife, Jody Brandt, and several other people, suspects, of being members of a cult that I believe engages in child abuse, incest, pimping out their own children to other members of the cult, and likely devil worship, worshiping deities like the Abrasics. So, some things I want to point out to you guys about this Facebook page. First, let's scroll down. I'll show you. Here is Jody Brandt and her husband, Zay Frank, holding their 2 adopted children. And one of the things I would like to make you aware of is the fact that there are really only a handful of pictures on here. So I'm going to scroll all the way down to there's the first post that you can see, right? And it was November 22nd, 2016. And there's the little girl, her name's Rose, and she looks to be between the age of 1 and 2. It's now been 9 years since this first post, so she's probably somewhere around 10, 11 years old. The boy is, I believe, a couple, 2 to 3 years older. Now, I want you to think about this, guys. First of all, I have 2 sisters. They have 3 kids between them. My sisters have steadily, faithfully documented every little toot that has come out of the butts of their children from the day they were born. They have taken copious amounts of pictures of, and I'm guilty of this as well, so is my mom. Every adult in our family has taken pictures and video recordings of these kids throughout their childhood. They are now, by the way, all in their teens. So for the better part of 2 decades, I don't think a week goes by that a picture isn't taken of these kids and posted on all over social media. This is normal parent behavior, by the way. Typical parents, they love and adore their baby. They might, even if they're teenagers, they're still their babies. And every little thing they do is a miracle. And they want to share it with the whole world. And this is also our way these days of updating our extended family, relatives that live far away, our friends, of, what's going on in our life. And typically, if you're a parent, most of your life is your kids. So it's like, yeah, look at these snot-nosed little brats who are sucking the life out of me. Here's what they're up to these days. Look, see, he's good at sports now, and she's all into art and fashion, and see, isn't she pretty, and he's handsome, and I'm so proud of them, and so on and so forth. Parents just can't seem to stop posting photos of their spawn all over social media, and that is perfectly normal behavior. What I do not typically see is a parent who takes a handful of photos of their children at a very specific age, but within maybe a couple of years, post that small handful of photos on social media and then just stop and never post anything afterwards. That's very interesting to me. Now, if you think about it, one of the ways that a parent, if they are a pedophile or they are part of a network or a group or secret society that engages in pedophilia and incest, and they pimp out their children to other members of their network for money, one very safe way to advertise their children would be to simply post what appears to be family photos of them on social media. Say, here's what I got for you. if you're interested, basically. So, another thing you should consider is, if you want to minimize, if this is what you're doing, if you're pimping out your own children, if you want to minimize the risk of getting caught, there's kind of a sweet spot age range that you want to take advantage of with your kids. Or any kids. Ugh. It kind of makes me feel sick talking about this like this, but it is what it is. And that would be roughly, I would say, the first 4, maybe 5 years of their life. Because most people don't really remember the first few years of their life. I know I don't really have any memories of anything before the age of 4. Maybe 5. I don't know. You might, maybe, have 1 or 2 memories from when you're a child, like a young child, from before you were 4 or 5 years old. But even then, the likelihood of them being traumatic memories are not good, because your little mind, when you're that young, your little mind can't handle that kind of trauma and betrayal, and that will be one of the first memories to go. Like, you will suppress the shit out of that memory. So, and it's hard enough for our baby brains to hold on to memories when we're developing those first few years, let alone a highly traumatic memory. So, that much more likely, it highly minimizes the risk of you getting caught if you're of a mind to pimp out your children, to do it when they're within the first 4 years or so of their life. They're likely not going to remember those years. They also, at these ages, they don't understand good touch, bad touch yet. They're very easy to manipulate, especially like this age. They don't understand good touch, bad touch yet. You could also, if you want to dig deeper, make the case that there's a little bit of some suggestiveness in some of these photos. She's sticking her tongue out here. She has her mouth wide open in one of these. There. If you were prone to fantasizing about little children, this would be enough to do it for you. So, like I said, it's really like, it's just a small handful of photos of her kids within a very specific age range. I would say at their oldest, the boy here is older, and I'd say the oldest he is in these photos is maybe 5 or 6. It looks like this is them at their oldest here. And this was 2020. So 5 years, going on 6 years ago now. This, by the way, so for those of you, just to refute any excuses or anything that the gang stalkers might put forward, first of all, she wouldn't have stopped. I don't believe she would have stopped posting, because I'm researching and investigating them. I mean, she might have, but it might be a contributing factor. But keep in mind, the last photo that she posted of these kids was January 27th, 2020. That's a solid year before I ever caught on to Zay Frank. But that's a solid year before I ever even knew Zay Frank existed. He was my very first suspect. The very first person in this network that I realized what he was doing. And from there, it just was off to the races, and I started investigating his associates, and it just spread from there. So, she stopped a solid year before I ever even knew that her husband existed or any of this was going on. Why would she have stopped? Well, maybe because, first of all, they might have stopped pimping these kids out after they reach a certain age, because, again, that much more likely they will remember these experiences as they get older, and that much more likely that they now understand things like good touch, bad touch. No, he's not supposed to touch me with his penis. Mommy, you're not supposed to tell me to touch his penis. My teacher at school said that's wrong. Mr. Police Officer said that's wrong, so on and so forth. The other thing is if you calculate how old these kids are now, I mean, again, the youngest one here, the girl, is probably 10 or 11, which makes him probably in his early teens. He's probably maybe about 12, 13, something like that. So they're pushing into their teens now. It makes them far less attractive to pedophiles now. Maybe hebephiles will still be interested. Hebephiles are attracted to teenagers. They like to differentiate themselves from the typical pedophiles. In my opinion, they're still pedos, but whatever. But for typical pedophiles who like young children, these kids are now beginning to age out of the age range that pedophiles would find to be attractive. I would say 12. At 12, they really start to develop into, they start looking more and more like adults. We even saw this in the book Lolita, written by Vladimir Nabokov, famous book about a pedophile who married a woman because he was in love with her 12-year-old daughter. And so he started an affair with his stepdaughter when she was 12. And it wasn't long after that, within about a year to two, about a year, I believe, was the span of that story for the most part. Year and a half. He was already lecturing that girl on how she was not allowed to get any bigger. Physically, she was not allowed to grow any bigger or develop any more. He wanted her to always stay a little 12-year-old girl. So 12 is about the age where, they tap out of being attractive to pedophiles. And so it's kind of, what's the point now? There's no longer any reason to advertise these children publicly, is there? It's like, are we missing the last 5 years of photos of what these kids are doing? And another thing is that you should keep in mind is, like, for any of you out there who might be like, well, maybe she just decided to stop using Facebook. Well, no, here's another 2 years later, 2022, she posted this fundraiser for the American Heart Association, first of all. And secondly, most of the time, from what I understand, from what I've experienced, when a person decides to stop using social media, Facebook particularly, they just go, fuck it, I'm done with Facebook, and they delete their entire account. They don't just leave up a very sparse, minimal Facebook page that just has a handful of pictures of their children. So, and it's like, if she's comfortable with having this handful of pictures of her kids when they're this young, why isn't she comfortable with now, posting pictures of them as they're older and older, 8, 9, 10, early teens? She doesn't seem to care if the public sees this, right? But we can't see what they look like as 10-year-olds and 12-year-olds? We can't see what they're doing, what they're up to? That's interesting. Maybe she's posting stuff that only her friends on Facebook can see, but again, it's like, why the sudden switch over? Why would she have these few for the public to see, but now everything after this, it's only her friends can see, if that's the case even? So again, I'm of a mind to think that it's very possible, given what I already know about these people and have researched about them and figured out about them, that these could very well be were advertisements for these children when they were very young and sellable. But again, they are getting to be they're getting up there in age, so they're not that marketable anymore. Not to a certain group of people. It's also very possible that after a certain point, she had pimped them out to as many people in her network as was going to be interested. So, Yeah, so I just wanted to point that out. I'm trying to remember if there was anything else I wanted to say about all of this, but I just think that this is very interesting. This is just not normal for most parents. I've seen a lot of Facebook pages out there, not just for my sisters, for lots of just random people and friends and so on, friends of friends. And anytime they've got kids and they're just normal, typical people, they put their entire Facebook is just freaking full of photos of their children at all ages. Not a handful of photos of their children from within like a couple of years, and then just stopped. Another kind of weird thing, I don't know. It's possible. I have to wonder if, for example, this one was posted much later, like a year or two maybe after she took it. I'm not sure. Not sure. But it'd be interesting to see also who likes and loves these photos. It'd be interesting to look into some of these people. But there's only so much time in the day. So again, that's another reason why I'm pointing all this stuff out to you people and asking you to get involved and help with the cause of researching these people and trying to get them caught. Go back over the videos I've already put out on this channel, talking about my suspicions about these people. There are a lot of them, I know, and they're intermittent with, just private personal videos of, my cats and me talking about my dreams. But I think I've labeled enough of them, look for the ones that say Zay Frank. Especially go back to some of the very first beginning ones, because I think I have a lot of information in those. But yeah, again, this is just weird. It's weird that she just basically stopped posting pictures of her kids 5 years ago. What's up with that? So, all right. Good night.